partners, and supporters from around the world. I want to thank a few people before we get started. First of all, I want to give special thanks to our co-hosts, Pat Mitchell and Kathy Bushkin-Calvin. Their support has made this event possible, and we really thank them. I also want to thank everybody on our host committee and our sponsors for their generous support. I particularly want to thank our Visionary Circle sponsors, the Knight Foundation and the Leonsis Foundation, as well as our Producer Circle sponsors, the Open Society Institute and Talk Radio 3WT. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce tonight's MC, Christopher Turpin, the executive producer of National Public Radio's All Things Considered and a former Internewser. Chris.
Thank you, Jeannie. It's fitting that we should all meet here tonight at the museum, which is dedicated to the principle of a free press and which exhibits and honours the work of journalists everywhere. Like the museum, Internews believes in the power of information to change people's lives. It's worked in 70 countries to foster independent media, and its work is based on one simple principle, one very simple principle, that informed voices make informed decisions. That if you give people access to information, they will make the right decisions for their families and, just as importantly, for their communities. As Jeannie mentioned, before I went to NPR, I spent a couple of years working for Internews. David Hoffman, the president of Internews, who apparently is sitting on a runway somewhere between California and here, lured me away from what I was doing for a hefty pay cut, if I remember rightly, and the promise that it would be the most challenging and fulfilling time of my life. And in many respects, he was right. In Indonesia, I trained young journalists from community radio stations. They were being allowed to report freely for the first time after the fall of Suharto. In Bosnia, I worked with Serb and Croat journalists who wanted to leave the politics of ethnic hatred behind. Working with a multi-ethnic crew from across the Balkans, I produced a series of television documentaries. We brought divided communities together in an effort to bridge differences through dialogue. And in Arusha, Tanzania, I helped establish a little press agency. The aim was to ensure that the UN war crime tribunals there, the war crime tribunals receive publicity for the genocide trials of the Rwandan genocide trials. And that what was happening there reached an international audience. And that was all in the first year that I was at Internews. It's the energy, the innovation, the sheer will to make a difference that I believe makes Internews a very, very special organisation, and why I feel very proud to have been asked to stand here tonight. And tonight we honour 5 outstanding leaders in the media for their own tireless work, informing, inspiring, and engaging people around the world. First, I'd like you to turn your attention to the screen to see a short video that captures the faces and the spirit behind Internews. Ah, yes, communications.
Free-flowing, locally produced and editorially independent news and information can transform lives and enrich communities. This is at the core of Internews programs. Working in some of the most challenging environments, Internews uses new technologies to bring innovative solutions to hard problems. When Pakistan's worst natural disaster struck in 2005, the quake killed 80,000 people and left 3.5 million homeless. Local media was crippled. Internews quickly set up 8 emergency response FM stations, a vital source of information.
The impact of this radio program was huge. It started providing information in real time, it started providing information in local languages, and it started pinpointing inadequacies in the relief effort.
Internews envisions a world where people can communicate freely and access the information they need to shape their future. To make this happen, Internews addresses the legal and regulatory environment, advocates for sound internet policy, helps media become financially viable, and advances journalists' professional skills.
Internews, in its training, in its workshops, they reminded journalists, reporters, what their work is really about.
Dr. Raja Sarguli saw a real need in her West Bank community for news and information. In 1996, she founded Al Fajr Al-Jadid Television.
I believe that journalism in Palestine is very weak and underdeveloped, not tough enough. If you believe in a certain idea, you should fight for it and get it out of the interview. We don't have that ability.
Dr. Sarguli's journalists have enhanced their reporting skills with support from Internews. The station has launched 2 new programs, bringing vital information to the community.
He came to our home and took our prize.
Giving a story a human face or that human voice brings a story to life. You're talking about me and you because it's real. Somebody's sharing their own personal experience.
To tell these stories, Internews develops beat journalists on critical issues. Internews' public health reporting program, Local Voices, humanizes and localizes reporting on HIV/AIDS, malaria, and avian influenza, raising the level of dialogue and providing ongoing support and mentoring to a cadre of health reporters. Many people in developing countries who are most vulnerable to climate change have never heard of global warming or species loss and deforestation, even though these issues directly affect them. Internews' Earth Journalism Network builds the skills of local journalists and provides resources to cover these stories. Transmitting from a 20-foot cargo container in a frontier town in eastern Chad, Radio Absoun broadcasts to Darfuri refugees. Part of Internews' humanitarian response work, these programs directly affect survival by reporting information about security, food and water distribution, and where to get health services. The radio program She Speaks, She Listens, produced by women who live in the refugee camp, breaks new ground by covering violence against women, giving a voice to women, and stimulating community dialogue on child marriage and other women's issues. Internews empowers people worldwide with news and information they need and the means to make their voices heard.
I'll be in touch.